Hello wonderful people, it's Wild here. In this video I'm going to show you how to build a grand cherry blossom mansion. This stunning build has loads of space and would make for an incredible survival base or creative build. The materials you'll need for this build are on your screen now. Keep in mind that for a large build like this, you'll need to allow a few extra of each supply. That way it makes it a lot easier to do things like randomizing textures and building complicated roof lines. If you're having trouble getting any of these materials in survival, be sure to leave a comment and I'd be happy to offer some alternatives. Here is the outline of our mansion. Now, keep in mind you're going to want to allow a few blocks around the edges. You can also see where the posts are marked in the dark grey concrete powder, and you can put in an outline like this to help you build. We're going to begin this build by using some cherry logs to create posts. These are going to be spaced 3 apart all the way around the outline. I'm going to start by building up 5 high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each of the post locations. We'll just take a step back and you can see along the front wall of the left side we've got 3 posts. Then along the left hand most wall we have 5 posts. Now we're going to work our way along the back. We have a lot of posts along the back wall. It should be 8. Then we'll have 4 posts along the rightmost wall, 3 along here. We'll come in 1 post and then we'll work our way across the front, and 1 more post to fill in that gap. So it should look like this. All of these posts are going to give you the shape of the build, and we're going to now connect these posts up along the top layer all the way around the outline. This will leave you with a 4 high gap below the posts. As we're creating this framing for the build, you'll notice that the actual walls will be set 1 block back. This is going to allow us to add a lot more depth and definition to the build, and it really enhances the detail. Almost all the way around now. And there we go. Now before we work on the rest of the framing, I've cleared out the floor already and I'm going to start filling it in. Now I'm going with these jungle planks. I like how they have a similar pinkish hue to the cherry wood we'll be using throughout the rest of the build, but it's a bit more toned down, which allows you to have more freedom when decorating your interior. However, you could use whatever flooring material you'd like. For example, andesite would be a really great option, or you could go for some full pink power and fill it all in with some cherry planks. I've also filled in the gap underneath there where we will have our door. And you'll see I'm filling in 1 block back from the posts because we've got our wall going in between there. Last little section of this floor. And we are done. Okay, we're going to switch back to some cherry logs for this next section, and I'm going to build up 5 high again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the way around on top of our original post locations. There we go. I'm also going to grab some of these jungle planks and I'm going to count 1 post back on the left hand side and connect it all the way across like this. I'll then place another post right in the center so it should line up with the one in front of it. Now we can go ahead and join up all of these posts with some more beams, and you'll notice again we have a 4 block gap below. And I'm also going to connect these posts here and here with a beam. Here's here's how the framing should look for both the bottom and the top story. Next, we're going to take some more of these cherry logs and we're going to have them come out of each of the joins around the build. We're just doing this on the first floor to begin with, and we'll work on the second floor later on. You can see I'm coming out on both directions on the corner. Now, when we get to this front section, we're going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to place in these two around the corners and this one here, but I'm going to leave out this front section as we're going to have a gable roof going in. I'm also going to grab some pink wool or another placeholder block and start marking in my locations of doors and windows. So we have a door here in the center, and all of this is going to be above this innermost outline here. We have a window to either side, 2 high and space 1 up. We have 2 windows on either side of here. A window in the center of this wall. And we're going to place a window on every other section of this back wall. We have 2 windows centered on this wall here on the left-hand side, just like that. And then we have 2 windows on the front left-hand side wall. Having all of these locations marked in will help us when we add in our walls. I've now got my walling materials out. For this, I'm going to be using some moss blocks, some mossy stone bricks, and some regular stone bricks. And I'm going to be filling in each panel like this, randomizing the texture as I go. So I want each of these spaces to be slightly different. So I'll be taking a step back and changing my blocks to get a really nice randomized texture. I'm also going to do my best to avoid symmetry. This will give the whole appearance a more natural look. It'll also be completely up to you on what blocks you use the most of. So if you have a lot of moss, you might have more mossy walls than mine. Or you could always build it all out of stone brick and then go back in and add moss later if you don't have moss at this point in the game. You'll also notice as I fill in that the corner of the last side is going to wrap around, so you'll want to keep that in mind when you're adding in your texture. Let's take a step back and look at this last wall here. That looks good. I'm just going to change up some of these blocks here just to give it a little bit more of a natural appearance. And never be afraid to break and replace when you're doing this kind of texturizing. That's really how you end up with a fantastic end result. Alright, I think I'm happy with that. It has a little bit more variation going on, and I'm going to wrap around and start working on the next side. Coming up with texture can be a little bit of a tricky thing to get the hang of, so you really just want to practice and practice until you find a technique that works best for you. If you're struggling to come up with a different texture for each of your panels, you could always take 1 or 2 designs and then replicate them and then switch between the kind of pattern you've created as you go. That'll give it a more natural look and not look so like it is a repetition. There we go, the whole lower story is now filled in. Next I'm going to come inside the build and you'll see we've got all of these little gaps in between each of the panels, so you can fill them up with a mixture of those three materials or just use some stone brick. I'm going to go in with the stone brick and add that in. Just filling in each of the gaps. You should find that these walls are only 4 blocks high, so you can see this row of cherry wood above them. There we go. I can now grab out some jungle planks and I'm going to fill in the whole floor here. I'm going to go back in later to add in my ladder or staircase to get up to the second story, and the location of that really depends on how you decide to decorate your interior. As I'm filling this in, you'll notice that I'm going right on top of the wall and I'm joining all the way up to the edge. Okay, I've got the whole floor in now, so we're going to start working on the location of windows and doors on this second story. I'm going to start by coming to this left-hand side and marking my location for the door. In fact, I'm going to need to set this 1 block back because on this level, we also have the walls set 1 in from our posts. I'm also going to place in a window in this gap here. Then on this side, I'm counting 1 space back from the back, and I'll mark in another window. Now we'll go along the back. We'll have a group of 2 windows here, a space, a window in the center, a space, and then 2 windows on the other side. So it should be symmetrical. Then on this right hand side, we've got a window in the center gap. I've got 2 windows on the front here, like this, and then on this top story I'm going to have a window on either side, here and here, just like this. Next I'm going to grab some more of my placeholder block and I'm going to go all the way around the outline. Coming around the outline now, and then we're going to be using some of our first super pink blocks and we're going to be going in with some of these stripped cherry logs. Now I'm just placing these, clicking on the bottom layer of these placeholder blocks so that they're all facing downwards, and I'll go all the way around the outline like this. You'll notice that for this outline I've come just to this edge here. I'm not going further out as this section is going to be a little balcony. There we go, and you should be able to see the cherry wood underneath the outline we've created with the framing. Now we'll be taking some calcite, white concrete powder and white wool and adding in our walls. So like we did on the lower level, I'm going to be adding some texture as we go using these materials. So each of these panels is going to be a little bit different, and we're going to kind of aim for a really natural worn appearance. The amount of each material you use really depends on the way you end up texturizing. Keep in mind that the texture you've got going on the edge of a wall is going to wrap around and be part of the texture of the next wall on the corner. So you'll need to keep that in your mind as you create the texture, and you might need to make some adjustments as you go around. Now that we've got all of these walls filled in, we can go ahead and break all of the pink placeholder blocks. So this is going to include all of the windows, any of our door locations, and we're also going to be doing the lower story as well. Oh my goodness, I might need to add some torches. It's a very important thing to remember, especially if you're building in survival, is when you add in a covering like I've got here with my floor, you'll need to light up. So as soon as I've removed these placeholder blocks, I'm going to go ahead and add in some torches down here. Alright, I'll now head back up to the top, and I can also remove all of these placeholder blocks here. While I'm up here, I'm going to fill in the gaps in between these walls using these 3 materials we've got going on in the rest of the walls. This is just going to continue the texture on throughout the interior space of the build. I'm also going to fill in around these corners here, making sure I fill in all the way around the corners so we connect up with the pink cherry wood we've got above. We've got the interior walls and the base walls of both our second and lower story complete. Okay, I've lit up my lower story. I'm going to place in a few torches up here on the top story. And as we did on the story below, I'm going to use some jungle planks to fill in all the way across the roof, going right on top of these cherry logs. For this section here, over the little balcony, I'm going to be using some jungle slabs. So if you're using a different kind of flooring, you just switch that out for the slab variant. I'm placing it at the top level so you can see some of these cherry logs poking out underneath. I'm then going to go in and add in my white stained glass for the windows and my cherry wood doors. And I'll do this on both stories. And then we can start adding in the peaks for the gables and the roof. Just a tiny bit more glass to add in here. Okay, and it's gable time. For the gables, we're going to be building on top of these logs here, and I've got my same white concrete, white wool and calcite. I'm going to start by marking in the location of my window using some more of a placeholder block, so it's centered here and it's 3 blocks high. I'll also mark in the gables on the other locations where they're going to be the same shape. Just like this. You'll notice that these windows are lined up with the ones at the front. And next we'll mark in a couple more windows. We've got a 3 high window here, and you can see it's centered on this post, and it'll line up with the gable window on this side here, which again is 3 high. Finally, we have a tiny 1 high window centered above the door of this build, just here. Oops, and I ended up breaking my block. Now we're going to start adding in the actual gable walls. I'm going to work on this tiny one here first, and it's just going to go up 2 high, and then 2 high on top, like this. Now let's work on these 4 gables, this one here, here, over there, and over there. We're going to start by going up in a layer of 1, then a layer of 2, another layer of 2 on top of that, and then 2 above the window, just like this. And I'll come up the other side doing the same thing. You can see I'm adding in texture as I go. 2, we have another grouping of 2 next. Let's go with a white wool and a concrete powder, and I'll fill in any gaps left in the gable. Like this. I'll do the same process on the other 4 matching gables. Now that we've got those 4 gables in, we just need to add in these 2 larger gables. For this pattern, we're going to start going up in a group of 2. There's our first group. We'll have another group of 2 following that. There's our second group. Next up, we're going to having a group of 3. So I'm going to build my way up and go up 1, 2, 3 on top of that. And I'll build my way up above my window. And we're going to go up 1 more layer of 3. 1, 2, 3. And that'll bring us to our point. I just want to match this up on the other side now. We get our first layer of 2. Another layer of 2. And going in finally with our layer of 3. There we go, all matching, and I'm going to come over to this other gable and do the same thing. Now I can go and replace these pink wool placeholder blocks with some white stained glass blocks. If you find that in your texturizing you end up with a concrete powder above your window, you can either break and replace really fast like this, or you can always just put the block back in once you've replaced the window. I'm now going to come to the outside of the build, and at the very top point of each of these gables I'm going to build out 2 blocks using these cherry logs. Also using these cherry logs, I'm going to come to the bottom of these gables and I'm going to build out the logs just at the points of the gable and in the center. So we've got our cherry logs coming out here, here as well, over here. I'm going to leave out these ones, but I will come and place in 3 over here and out this way, leaving these free, and finally these 3 at the back. Now we're going to start adding some more details to these panels, using some cherry stairs and slabs and some netherbrack stairs and slabs. The nether brick, we're going to start on the outlines here of the lower level, just adding in 2 stairs like this. I'm just going to work my way around the build here. We have quite a few sections to pull in. Having details like this where it's the same in all throughout the build really ties everything together. And it provides a nice contrast to the randomized texture we've got going on in the walls. I'm even going to come here and do these doorways. There we go, all the way around. Now on the second story, again using nether brick, I'll place in 2 stairs, but this time I'm going to join them with a slab in the center. You should still be able to see the cherry wood poking through underneath. As we come around this side here, where we've got our little balcony, I'm going to place them in underneath here, following along the actual wall. And I'll also place them underneath these gaps. Just the same, placing the slab in the center. And once again, continuing around the walls of this build. And again all the way around with that design. Now we're going to switch to the cherry stairs and slabs. I'm going to start on this front side of the build here because we have something a little bit different going on. I'm going to add my stair in here, then build around 3 slabs, and I'll place 1 more stair just here like this, and I'll do the same on this side. 1, 2, 3, and a stair. And then I'll leave this gap free, we'll be working there later. Now in the rest of these gaps, I'm going to add 2 stairs and a slab like this. And I'm just doing this on the lower story of the build. You can see this really creates a fantastic layered look. And the contrast between the light pink of the cherry wood and the darker purple hue of the log bark as well as the nether brick provides some fantastic contrast. I'm also going to use these slabs and place them underneath each of these gables, connecting up the logs below them. So we've got them here like this, and around this way. For some more details, I'm going to go in with some mossy stone brick walls. I'm going to be placing these in these locations here, and on the opposite side as well. And I'm just building these up 4 high, underneath these 2 posts here and here, as well as around this side, here and here. Moving on over to this other side of the build, I'm going to add in a few more. And there we go, just like that. Next, I'm going to be placing them underneath each of these locations here, so where we've got these beams sticking out. And I'm just placing them 1 high on this layer. Just like that. I'll also add them to the top of these spots. And now we're going to switch over to some cherry supplies. So I'm going to go in with some stairs first. I'm going to place these underneath each of the other logs. So we've got those ones here, these here. I'm going to come around this way and place them underneath these logs. And then I'm going to place them at the same height, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks up, anywhere that we have a post. And I think we've covered them all now. Yes, we have. Okay, now I'm going to go in with some cherry fences, and I'm going to place these underneath all of the stairs here. And I'm also going to join up these walls on the lower level with 2 of the cherry fences. You can really see what a big difference adding in all these details makes, and we have a whole lot more to go. I'm going to start working on some railing now, and for this you can see I'm using some stripped cherry logs. I'm placing them so this top log texture is facing outwards, and I'm just going to do this on all the edges, leaving a gap in between. Like that. I'll then join these with the cherry gate. And I'm going to place a crimson trapdoor on top of each of the logs. Like that. Next I'm going to grab moss blocks, and I'm going to place 3 like this in each of the spaces on the top story where we don't have a window. I'm going to leave out this one because we have a gable here, but I'll go around the rest of the build. I'm also going to be placing some window boxes underneath these gable windows, but I'll be surrounding these with some of these crimson trapdoors. We've just got a small window box here. And while we're up here working with trapdoors, I'm going to add 3 trapdoors just to either side of each of these windows. Oh, and I've got one more window box to add up here. And I'm using cherry for these window shutters. I'm not going to have any window shutters here as our roof line is going to interfere with the window shutter location. But I'll jump around and continue on these other gables. Now let's add some decorations to the other windows. On the windows here on the second story, I'm going to add a cherry leaf to either side and then a cherry slab in the center, and I'll place a pot on top of that. I'm going to make sure I come inside the build here and add in some decorations to this window. And while I'm in here, I'm going to add the decorations to this doorway. So for this, I'm going to create a little arch by placing a slab here, adding stairs on either side, like this. I'll place in some trapdoors there, and then some cherry leaves. Alright, back out to do the rest of these windows. Oh, and it seems I've accidentally put my planter underneath the wrong location, so I'll just move that over here. There we go, and back to adding in my window decorations. Like that. Now for all the lower story windows, I'm just going to add a cherry slab, a cherry trapdoor, and a flower pot. For the decoration on the door, I'm going to create the same design as the door up there. So we've got our little archway, followed by some trapdoors, and then some leaves on either side. And back to adding in these window decorations. Let's take a step back. We'll quickly add in a few buttons. I'm using the crimson buttons here and I'm placing these on the logs. And then we can have a look at how the whole build is coming together. Look how fantastic it's looking already. Now we're going to get working on the roof. We're going to be having a grand tower coming out on either side here, but considering how complex this roof is with all these gables, I find it a lot easier to go in and create the whole roof first and then build the towers on top. So I'm just placing in a few torches and then I'm going to grab out my crimson planks and stairs to create some outlines for these gables. Let's start on these 4 smaller gables to begin with. I'm going to start by placing a stair here and then an upside down stair. Then I'll use blocks and stairs in a pattern to reach the top of the gable. And I'll come up on the other side doing the same thing. So it should have a nice point like this. I'm then going to add 2 on top to complete the point and replicate this design on the other 4 matching gables. If you're enjoying today's tutorial, I'd really appreciate it if you consider liking and subscribing, and check out my Patreon if you'd like to get access to world downloads and schematics upon request, access to a multi-world Patreon server, as well as custom tutorials and many more benefits. I'd love to have you join my community. Okay, all of those gables are in now. Let's work on these larger gables next. I'm going to go in with a crimson plank and a stair to begin with, and then I'll just work my way up. You'll see you're going to need to use 2 stairs when you get to the 3 high section, or rather 2 blocks followed by a stair when you get to the 2 high section. And we're just following the shape created by the gable. When you get to the top, we're going to add 3 blocks on top. 1, 2, 3. Next we have the tiny little gable here, so I'll go in with a block to begin with and then some stairs, a block and a stair, and the other side as well. And I'll finish this off with 2 blocks. And you can see we've got all of the gable outlines in, we just need to connect them up. So I'll go in with some stairs and wrap around the build like this. For this this section here, I'm going to have my stair facing so it connects up with the larger gable. Then I'll just continue these stairs along this way, and you can see I haven't wrapped them around to connect up with these smaller gables. There we go, placing that stair that way, wrap that stair around and join up here. Now we're going to start filling in the roof, so you'll need cherry planks and moss blocks. What we've got to do is join up the two different gables. So we're going to be starting on this left corner and kind of zigzagging our way, joining the roofs. I'm going to be going straight in with these blocks here and just building up so that they connect. You can see that we'll be following the outline created with these crimson stairs. So where we've got a block, we're just going to a stair, we're going to replace it with a block like this and wrap around so it all connects up. You can see how I'm kind of doing this in the corner. So I'm just going to go 3 layers up with the pink like this. And I'm going to come up one more layer here with the pink on the smaller gable. One, two, three, and it'll connect up nicely here. Like that. And now I'm going to switch to using moss blocks. And we've created that connection. Now I'm going to come around to this side and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So here I've got to keep in mind this smaller gable as well as the shape created by the larger gable. So if you have a look here, we go up 2 blocks, then 2 blocks, then 3, then 3. So we've got to keep that in mind when we do this. So we've got to go up another layer here. So there's our 2. Going to come along this way with this other gable. Next we got to go up another layer of 2. Like that. Coming along this way with our other gable. And then we have to go up 3. For here I'm just going to come across 1. Then I'll count up 3 and bring it along this way. And it should all connect up very nicely. Just like that. We've got one more layer of our cherry planks over here. And I'm going to go in with my layer of moss. Let's fill in these 2 sides now. Here's how the front is looking. We're going to be adding the texture with the moss swooping down in the center and kind of growing down the roof after we've got the base shape of the roof in. Now let's connect this corner. Now when you're filling it in, it's always helpful to have a few extra of the blocks on hand, because you can see I don't really need these few blocks to actually fill in the roof, but you might end up placing them in to help you get a feel for how the roof connects. You just want to be aiming to have no holes in the roof, because otherwise the rain is going to come in. Okay, we finished this front section of the roof. Now let's move on to the back. It's done much the same way, but we've just got smaller joins here on the corner. Once again, I'll just go up to here, add in my moss, and come with my moss on this other side. I think I'm going to go and fill in this corner here, as that middle section is all very interconnected. Alright, let's work on this middle section now. So for the main outline of the roof, remember we need to go up 2 high here, so I'll build up 2. The next layer is going to be 3 high, but I need to connect to these stairs, so I'm going to come back like this. And then go up another 2, or rather another 1, to go up to the height of 2 blocks. And I can wrap this round to connect up with the next layer here. I need to add an extra block to this section on both sides. And this next layer of the main part of the roof is 3 blocks high. And I can wrap it around to connect up with the smaller gables. And I'll also continue this moss layer. The final moss layer to top off this roof is just 2 blocks high. Let's take a step back and have a look at the shape of the roof. Now I'm going to go in and start adding in my texture. Now it's fully up to you how you do this. I'm just going to go in and start replacing and moving around the blocks until I get a look I'm happy with, although I want it to swoop down the most in the center of this roof. It's up to you how much or how little you change here. But I want it to look as if the moss has grown down the roof over time. I'm also going to do the same thing to these smaller gables. And don't be afraid to change and move around your texture until you get a look you're happy with. I'm also keeping in mind here that the moss is going to allow me to plant some flowers on my roof. So I'm just going to make sure there's moss where I know I want to plant a flower later. You'll also notice me taking a step back quite frequently to get a really good look at what I'm creating. Okay, here is how the front is looking. I'm going to do the same process on the back of the roof now. Okay, so the roof is now pretty much done, and you can see I've done all my texturizing both on the front and the back. Let's move back around to the front now, and I'm coming down to this lower level to add in the gable above the doorway. I'm going to start by placing crimson planks here and here. I'm then going to use some cherry stairs and come 3 out on either side, and place in slabs in the center, like this. and then going to build 2 up with some calcite here and here. I'm going to place in some crimson stairs in these 2 spots and a block on top. Then I'm just going to come to a point here, add 2 cherry logs coming out, and then 2 crimson planks. I'll then come 3 crimson stairs out from the crimson planks to complete the kind of outline of the gable. And next I'm going to go in with some cherry wood planks just to fill in the roof. It might be a good idea just to tuck a light in here. Okay, we've got the shape of this gable complete now. Let's add a few more details. I'm going to go in now with some walls in these spots here and here. And I'll connect them up with some cherry fences. And if we take a step back, we have a little gable over the top of our doorway now. Now it's time to add in these towers. We're going to start by adding in the base of the largest tower here on the left hand side of the build. I'm going to find this corner point here and break the cherry block there. I'm then going to build up 5 high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, using my stone brick, and actually you can mix in some mossy stone brick as you do this. I'm then going to go 2 more over to the back like this, and I'm breaking any blocks just so it has a seamless look like that. And then I'm going to join up, kind of completing a circle here by breaking these 2 blocks and building up to the same height, like that. Now for this tower, I'm going to be filling in with my walls first, then I'll go ahead and break holes for my stained glass. For the walls, I'll be using a mixture of calcite, white concrete powder and white wool, and I'm just going to start adding these in, creating a randomized texture following the shape of a circle where we've got 3, then 3, and I'll continue to join up here and over on this wall as well, and then I'll break these 3 blocks here to continue my wall along this way. As I'm starting to add in all of this texture, I'm going to aim to have the white section 9 blocks high from this point here. So you know what, I'm going to count that out now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I can always go ahead and change the blocks in that texturized stack once I see how the rest of the wall is looking. There we go. Let's do this on the other walls as well. Okay, there's the base walls of our tower in. Now I'm going to grab some nether brick walls and I'll join all the way up to the top of the tower, filling in from the corners. Like that. With our walls in place, we can now add in our windows. I'm going to start by adding 3 of these stripped cherry logs at the top here, and I'm on the right hand side of the tower. I'll then add in a 2 high window below that. I'm going to add a window on the opposite wall in the same way. And then I'm going to count 2 blocks down before adding in another window, adding my cherry logs above it. Like this. Now on this front wall, I'm going to be having my window 1 block down, so that'll leave it here, which is 2 blocks from the top of the tower. Now I've come to the back side of the build on the right hand side, and I'm going to add in a smaller tower in this gap here. To find my location, I'm going to count up the steps, so 1, 2, 3. This is where I'm going to begin my tower. I'm going to break these 3 blocks here and this 1 block here, and then I'm going to start, like we did over on the other tower, by filling in all my walls to 11 blocks high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Building up again. There we go, and we've got 2 of our walls in now. The next wall is going to go in here. And then we have our little wall just in this back section coming up to the same height. So you should be left with a tower that looks like this, and it should stick up 3 blocks above the height of the top of the roof here. I'm then going to go in with some nether brick walls like we did on the other tower and place them in the corners. And then it's time to add in our windows, once again using the white stained glass. Our first window is going to go 1 block down from the top here on the right hand side. I'll then count 2 blocks down and add in 1 more window on this side of the wall. Then I'm going to come round to the backmost side and I'm going to add in a window here so you can see that the bottom glass of this window lines up with the top glass of the window to the kind of left of it. And then we have 1 more window going in here, and this kind of is going to line up with its bottom glass next to the top glass of this window here. We've got all of our windows in on this tower. If you want, you can always go in behind these windows and replace this moss with some more of the calcite, but you don't have to. You can also go ahead and break the moss and the cherry wood that connects it to the roof below, and if we come over this way, we can see where we have the other tower and we can go ahead and break these roofing blocks. That way we're kind of opening up the tower to the rest of the roof. There we go, and I'm going to come back out this tower and add my glass back in. Now we need to create some pointy roofs on top of these towers. For this smaller roof, I'm just going to start by placing 4 cherry planks on top of the walls, and then I'm going to fill in the corners with some more planks and place some stairs in front of each of the flat faces like this. I'll then put some slabs to fill in the gaps and create the first layer of the swoop of our tower. I'm then going to place a cherry plank here and a moss here and here, a moss on top of each of these like this, and then I'm going to come up 2 more moss just to fill in the top. I'm then going to add 4 crimson fences on top of this and create a little flag out of pink and white wool. Let's take a step back, looking from the front. It should look like this. Now for the larger roof, I'm going to start with some cherry planks again, and I'll go all the way around the outline of the tower. I'll then place in 3 stairs in the center of each of these faces. And next I'll go in with some slabs, and I'm just going to come around the outline here. You'll see I'm just setting them one out from the actual walls and joining up all the way around the build. So it should look like this from above. Let's continue going up the point. I'm going to add in some cherry planks here and here with some stairs on either side. And we're going to start transitioning into some moss now, and then we'll kind of adjust the texture once we've got our base shape. So I'm going to add in 4 of these stairs. Then I'm going to build up 2 high in each of the corners with moss blocks and connect them up. I'll then come 2 more up and 2 more up on top of that to fill in the gap. And actually, you know what, let's go 1 more up to create an even swoopier swoop. Now that we've got the base shape in, we can replace some of the cherry here with some of the moss. And I can replace some of the moss with some cherry. Let's replace, I think maybe this one over here and this one over here. I think that looks pretty good. Could even replace just one more in there. Next, I'm going to add 5 crimson fences on top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One block down from this, I'm going to start creating a flag, and for this tower, I'm going to create a slightly larger flag. And our tower roofs are looking fantastic. Now we can get adding some details to these towers, starting with some window decorations. On this larger tower, I'm going to begin by creating some arches using some cherry wood slabs. I'll then create some planters using a moss block, some crimson trapdoors and some cherry stairs. And I'm repeating this on each of the windows. I'll also take some cherry trapdoors and place them on either side of each window to act as some window shutters. Now over to the smaller tower. For the window decorations here, I'm going to place a slab beneath each window and a cherry wood trapdoor above each of the windows as well. I'll then hang a lantern and place a flower pot. Coming down to the second story, I'm going to be using these custom window shutter banners. I'll add one to either side of each window. And don't forget to do the window underneath the balcony here. With all those in place, I'm going to start adding some decorative lighting. This really elevates the build. On these smaller gables, I'll hang them 2 chain lengths down. And on these taller windows, I'll hang them 3 chain lengths down. 2 for these back 2. Oh, I seem to have accidentally broken my glass here at some point. I'll put that back. I'm also going to be hanging lanterns off of each of the trapdoors on the lower story of the build. I'll hang one above the doorway here. And I'm also going to hang them 1 chain length down from the corners of each of the roof joins like this. Back at the front of the build, I'm going to hang a lantern 1 chain length down here and just straight off the log on this tiny gable up the top. And this is how it should all be looking. The final locations I want to add some lanterns are up here underneath this tower. I'm going to add them centered on each wall. And then down here underneath the balcony, I'm going to come inside. And then I've got some jungle slabs and I'll place them here and here and hang a lantern from each so you can see they're centered on the 3 wide gaps. I've now got a collection of greenery and plants. You can see I've got some cherry leaves and saplings, some azaleas, some grass ferns and drip leaves, as well as some white and pink flowers. I'm going to be putting these all over the roof and in all of my planting boxes and pot plants. For the leaves, I'm going to cluster them draping down the corners of the roof like this. I'm going to keep this focused to the joins and the gables, some draping down the centers of the roof as well and around the towers, as well as over the ends of the gables. Then I'll take all of my greenery, so my leaves and my ferns and those things, and I'll be placing those all over the moss on the roof. And then I'm going to use my flowers, of course, in the pot plants. Let's have a look now at how I've styled this cherry blossom mansion. You can see that I've placed it in an oak and birch biome. I've then purposefully planted some cherry trees, and by placing it in this biome and planting the trees, I have a lot more control over where the pink goes. You can see I've got some clusters around the front of the build, and then I have added in a cherry blossom backdrop. I've then gone ahead and I've built a custom river winding beyond the back of the house and a little bridge leading over into the cherry grove. By having a little bit of separation between the house and the pink of the cherry trees, it really lets the house be the focus. I've extended this idea by keeping the planting around the house fairly simple, so you can see I've just got some greenery going on here with lots of grass to give it a lush feel, and then there's some ferns as well. I've created these small garden beds with some flowers that match with the colour scheme of the build, and I've got a path that winds its way up to the front door. You can see I've added a little patch of gravel right at the front door, and for this I've used a mixture of regular gravel and suspicious gravel. This provides some really great texture, and if you don't have access to the suspicious gravel in survival, you could always substitute that out for a mixture of corals or cobblestone. I've also placed some moss around the base of the build, and you can see that kind of fades out into the grass. This has a really vibrant green feel, and it also means that I can hide lights underneath this moss carpet. As for some decorations outside, I've got a little seating area over here using the cherry and the crimson. I've got some lights around the pathways. And over on this side, I've got a little swing set using the cherry blossom. If you would like some more ideas like these to use as exterior decor as well as interior decorations, make sure you check out my 120 1.20 build ideas. There's so much inspiration to be found there. Another thing I think is really wonderful is to fill the area around your house with life. So you can see I've brought a whole lot of little bunnies here. We've got a whole family, and then I've set up some beehives in lots of the trees around the build. That way there is more movement added to the biome, and it really does feel like a lived-in space. So now you've got a grand cherry mansion to be proud of. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and check out my Patreon to get some other awesome benefits. I'll see you in another video.